Hi, it's Nicole, and today I wanted to share a project that I have started recently using the Julie Nutting paper doll stamps from Prima and creating some art journaling pages with them. I'm dressing all of my dolls using scraps from Simon Says Stamp card kits. I found after I created the cards and other projects with my card kits that I had a lot of leftovers, and so this project was very much inspired by those leftovers pattern papers and my love of these paper doll stamps. So I'm going to share a little bit of my process. When I started this, I didn't think of it in terms of sharing it as much, and so I didn't really videotape everything from start to finish, and I had quite a few to catch up on as I wanted to document like the entire year of 2014 and have a page for each month, pretty much in essence, of those card kit leftovers. So a little bit later this week, I'm going to be sharing my June page, and it will be completely from start to finish how I create the doll, from stamping to dressing it with the pattern papers and piecing it together to creating the actual art journal page. I'm going to have two videos. This is the first of the two, and you can see I'm doing three at once here. I've stamped the dolls and I'm coloring the skin in with Copic markers. I like to use a text background pattern paper for this, which I had seen it done like in Julie's book. She has a book where she shares some of her mixed media type projects with these doll stamps, and I really liked the look of it. Since these are the kind of dolls that don't have faces and things like that, I like the texture that the text provides, if that makes sense, to the skin tone and the hair. Now, I have already previously stamped the pieces for these three dolls here on pattern paper. I'm dressing this first one using scraps of paper from I believe this is the March card kit, and it is the Lawn Fawn Hello Sunshine 6x6 pattern papers. The 6x6 pattern papers are wonderful for dressing your dolls because many times the patterns are scaled down, so they're much smaller. And like in the floral here, the two on the right, both of them are dressed from the February card kit, and in my blog post I discuss how come two of them are Februaries and I don't have a January. But like I was talking about the paper, the scale of the design is such that, like in the floral dress, you get to see those florals. They're not so big that when you cut out the pattern paper, you don't get to see that pattern, if that makes sense. So I'm very much a fan of using the 6x6 pattern paper for dressing my dolls. I color both their skin and their hair using Copics many times. I've also used distress markers, and I have had a request to use colored pencils, so I will be sharing that at some point throughout the rest of this year, just to kind of share. I had originally thought, you can see there, that I would give her freckles. I didn't really like it, so I simply took a marker and smoothed out her skin tone. I take shades of gray Copic markers and shade in their clothes. I feel like their clothes look kind of flat once you've colored in their skin and added shading. So I like to take a little bit of gray. It doesn't really matter which grays you use. I've used many different ones when dressing and shading my paper doll clothing. I think I used the toner grays for the projects here that I'm sharing today. But it doesn't make any difference. I try to stay on the lower end of the spectrum. You don't want them to be so deep and dark that they take away from the clothing, but you do want them to add a little bit of that shading, and it just helps with the movement of the doll, and I think it just helps to make the whole design look more cohesive, and again, to make the clothing not just look like it's flat pressed to them, even though it is. So I usually go in with my darker, and then I'll go in with a couple of lighter ones and really smooth it out. I'm not terribly particular with these, if that makes sense. I look at this more as an art journaling fun type project where you just play. It's not, I'm not sending a card to someone. This is not a scrapbook page. This is just a chance to play with my supplies, to get some more use out of them, to have some fun. For these, in fact, the hair on all of these were different combinations that I'd never used before. I found a tutorial online with different hair color combinations with Copics because I wanted to try something that I don't normally do. And so I tried a whole bunch of different ones for all three of these girls here. So it was simply one of those kind of learning play type experiences. I am going to share this doll here. I'm going to share how I created her from start to finish, since you didn't get to see me do the clothing for the other one. Now, I didn't end up using that orange pattern that I used right there. Sometimes I change my mind. Once you've cut out the design, sometimes it doesn't always work. And that's okay. These are scraps of paper. You can see I didn't stamp the entire doll on any of those little scraps of paper because I wanted to save as much of it as possible. You can use it for something else. So the base layer of clothing for this doll, and I should mention all the pattern papers for this are from the May kit, which was a very boy and masculine themed kit from Simon Says Stamp. It had a boy themed stamp set, and the papers were all more primary, I would say. But I picked a paper that had a frame that had some black in the center, and I gave her a black dress, and this ended up being a page that was my dressiest doll to date. So, and I only used the red portions on this pattern paper so I could get her some red shoes and a little red clutch. There's a wonderful stamp set that goes with these Julie Nutting stamps that's called Boutique, and it has some hats and accessories. It has some accessories. And so I just use those types of things. Look at your pattern papers differently. You can use up all of those little scraps when you do projects like this. So I changed her entire outfit to black and white. I didn't use a lot of the other colors in the kit. There are some wonderful plaids and things. So if I wanted to go back, I could create additional dolls or many other types of projects, anything. This is just one of the things I thought would be fun to do with those scraps. Again, coloring in all of her skin with some Copics. I used just the colors I had out on my desk. I think as the year progresses, I think I may try some different skin tones and things. I haven't done that in quite some time, and just for variety and fun, but I was being kind of lazy this day since I had so many to do at once and just used what I already had out and didn't go get any other colors. Again, I'm trying a new hair color combination, something I've never tried before. I just thought it would be kind of fun. It's kind of a rusty red color. It ended up being really fun. I wasn't quite sure when I laid down those orange colors as the base colors of the hair. I was a little unsure of if I was going to like that or not. And if you don't like it, this is my tip. Don't let it ruin your whole doll. Just stamp her head again and paste the new head on top of the old one, and that way you don't have to start completely from scratch. I have done that before as well. Now with the darker clothing, I am going in with a darker gray marker to add shading, and I'll smooth it out with a lighter one. So that's kind of the basics for creating my dolls. You can see all the finished pages here. However, in the next video I'm sharing today, since this is part 1 of 2, there will be a little bit more of how I put the entire background together on just a few of these pages. So I hope you've enjoyed this video showcasing some of the basics for creating and decorating your paper doll stamps. Most of the supplies I used are linked below the video on YouTube. However, the list was very long, so for the complete listing, please do visit my blog for everything I used today. Thanks for watching.